We're here today with Casey LaPierre to talk about the Trinity horseshoes. So Casey, what is the Trinity horseshoe?
Well, as the name suggests, the Trinity horseshoe is actually consists of three pieces that we use in the shoe. But the shoe itself is only one component of the whole, because we actually use the Trinity horseshoe in conjunction with or in concert with the perfect hoofwear, which is very important.
So Casey, why the Trinity? Why the three pieces?
That's a good question. Well, this started over 45 years ago when I was a professional farrier. I was working on quite a few horses that needed some remedial work, and I was working on performance horses because I was working on standardbreds and gaited horses. And, I was a fairly good farrier because I kept my clients over a long period of time. So over a 10-year period, I would see how the feet were developing with the application of my horseshoe. And what I wasn't really happy with was how the foot actually developed. Like most farriers, I too was asking, why is it I'm always chasing toe? Why is it that I can't correct underrun heels? Why is it that my frog is becoming unhealthy? So these were the questions that I had as a farrier. And I went looking for answers. And the only place I knew to look was based on what we call static mechanics, which is a traditional horseshoe, rigid horseshoe. Mechanics, what's the forces created by levers and pulleys. So I started to look into becoming more proficient at producing horseshoes, and I thought that would be the answer, but it wasn't. So once I started working on horses, I had taken a 2-year sabbatical basically to work at a museum to become a better farrier, to be better at making horseshoes. So I started applying these horseshoes, but I still didn't see the results that I wanted. So I became disenchanted with the traditional horseshoe. I really didn't like what I was seeing. So I started to work on horses shoeless. Okay, so we had to overcome this understanding that a horse could either be shod or be barefoot. Okay, at that time I was really shoeless was not my intent. My intent was to figure out a way to get a healthy foot under the horse. And as time progressed, I was reintroduced to a product that I used when I was doing racehorses for quarter cracks, such as casting. And we thought casting might work, but casting didn't possess what we needed to have that foot function correctly. What we needed some more flexibility, but we needed elastic potential, which is really important. So that's when we came up with the formula for the perfect hoofwear, which is 100% polyester wrap with a correct resin that allows us to create an exoskeleton. And then time progressed further to where we needed to have something to facilitate performance horses and to actually make the perfect hoofwear last long enough that we could get the stimulus that we wanted in the rehabilitation process or whatever we wanted to use it for. And then comes along Trinity, because we started to look at the foot from a perspective of intelligent design. We understand that the foot has two foundations, and it's really important that we support the dorsal foundation and allow the caudal foundation to move three-dimensionally with elastic potential or storing and releasing energy for that foot to work properly. So that's where we came up with the three pieces for the Trinity, working in concert with the perfect hoofwear.
What are the benefits of the Trinity horseshoe?
The benefits. There's so many benefits. We really haven't got a lot of time for that. But the most important benefits is that it respects intelligent design. We understand that the caudal foundations, or those foundations to your heels, the back half of your foot, are made up of cartilage. And cartilage has elastic potential when it's healthy. So we also know that the dorsal foundation, or the foundation for your toe, is bone. So in the design, we want to stabilize and support bone and allow the caudal foundation to be able to distort through all the planes so that it can utilize that energy to protect the navicular joint. So one of the biggest advantages of using something that has elastic potential and it allows the foot to move naturally is that it actually protects those structures that need to be protected, And it allows those structures that utilize energy to utilize the energy, because that's what's, for many years, I mean, for a very long period of time, the industry has been focused on how do I dissipate energy? Well, in reality, what we want to do is how do we utilize the energy? That's one of the big advantages of Trinity and Perfect Hoofwear, is that we learn how to utilize the energy to the advantage of the health of the horse.
So Casey, you're known for applied equine podiatry and the high performance trim method. How does applied equine podiatry enhance the Trinity?
About 20 years ago, we started the Institute of Applied Equine Podiatry. Dr. Robin Lord and myself, we co-founded the Institute of Applied Equine Podiatry, and it was based on an understanding that we needed to balance hoof to foot. So we had done some research projects and we did some studies that confirmed that if we did balance the hoof to the internal foot, that we could promote correct stimulus. Okay, back then, we approached applied equine podiatry by asking 3 simple questions. Okay, they were 3 really important questions, actually. Have all of the anatomical structures of the equine foot been defined in their entirety? And if so, has the stimulus responsible for correct function of those structures been defined? And if so, did the act of shoeing the horse with a traditional horseshoe provide the stimulus required for that function and for health? Okay, 3 simple questions. Well, that set us on a road that consisted of over 20 years of research to come to the conclusion that we're dealing with an intelligent design, and if we respect that intelligent design, we can actually help these horses develop healthy structure and reach peak performance by using products like Trinity.
So does the Trinity actually help the horse's hoof? I heard it's incredibly light.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime that we produce products, anytime that at the Institute that we were trying to develop products, it's always been to respect that design and to help the horse. Okay, when we developed the Trinity, we wanted to keep it light because when a horse is at gait and moving, there's a lot of stress on joints. And any weight added to the end of the limb puts more strain and stress on the limbs. So that's why barefoot horses tend to, stay sounder longer, because a lot of it has to do with inertia, force, momentum. And this force, which is mass times acceleration, can affect the joints. So the Trinity itself is made of an aluminum alloy. And with the Perfect Hoofwear, and this is the coolest thing about it, with the Perfect Hoofwear and everything you need to put the 2 together on a horse, the weight is about 5.5 ounces. Well, that doesn't mean much to many people unless you've been doing racehorses, because if you have been shoeing racehorses, you understand that a king's plate, or a queen's plate, actually, racing plate, a number 5, weighs about 7 to 7 3/4 ounces. Okay, so that doesn't include the nails. All right, so that's just the shoe. Well, 2 ounces, does it make that big a difference? Well, yes, it does, because at the end of the stride, okay, with the momentum and the force, that horse has to pull back about 8 times that weight with each return of stride. So if I've got 5 ounces going out, he's pulling back 40 ounces. Okay? If I have 8 ounces going out, you can imagine just that much more. So we tried to keep it as light as possible. Okay? And we've succeeded, and we get good wear. The weight is very important. Okay? The design has proven to us that by balancing correctly, and that's really important that we balance correctly. Okay, so if we balance correctly and utilize Trinity and Perfect Hoofwear, we found, and something that you asked the benefits, was every horse that we worked on, every horse that we prototyped on, when we removed the shoe from the horse for reset or for trimming, actually to put a new set on, because we don't reset Trinity. Trinity will last between about 4 to 6 weeks. When it's taken off, we put our dynamic balance hoof level on that foot before we trim it, and every single foot that Trinity was on stayed in balance. It grew down balanced.
So is the Trinity exclusively for performance horses or pleasure horses?
It's a good question. It's a question I get on social media all the time. No, Trinity is not just for performance horses, because we view performance as synonymous with health. Okay, you can't have performance without health, and you can't have health without performance, because the two go hand in hand, which is the way it is. So the Trinity horseshoe and perfect hoofwear can be used for transitioning from traditional shoes to barefoot. It can be used for rehabilitation. We use it for correcting underrun heels, negative palmar angle syndrome, and most of all of the other disciplines that you can think of, speed horses, barrel horses, show jumpers, race horses. Particularly, I'm really excited that we're getting into the show jumping industry in such a big way, because there's a lot of force that these horses are subjected to when they come off a fence, and Perfect Hoofwear and Trinity does a fabulous job of managing that energy to protect the horse.
Did I hear that performance is enhanced by the Trinity? Could this be an edge to performance?
As I was just saying, when we're dealing with energy, and what it's actually doing is it's managing the energy. Okay? When the foot is allowed to function correctly through its intelligent design, through the cartilage and working to protect the joint, the horse can utilize all of the energy that it's producing in its stride. And what we found is, particularly I'll give you an example. We have some horses that we're using in barrel racing, prototyping on barrel racing horses. And on those horses, what we've seen is a significant reduction in time in their runs, as much as 1/10 of a second per run. Now, what's even cooler is that when they go to a weekend show where they have to run three races over the weekend, normally what you would expect is that a horse would slow down because of the stress and being tired and so forth from each race. Well, the horses that we've used Trinity on actually decreased their times over the weekend. So their last run was their best run. And what we get from the riders, from the jockeys, is that my horses just feel like they're building confidence. They have more confidence going around the barrels. It's the same response I got from my show jumpers. Okay, we had used Trinity on show jumpers, and the first words out of their mouth is, "It's a different horse," when they come up to me after they've used it. And they find that it's easier to keep them on a line to the fence. Picking up their leads is easier, because the horses are more confident in their balance and foot function.
Was there anything you noticed about the horse's hoof that you did not expect after 4 weeks when removed?
Yeah, and it's actually was a very surprising finding. It really wasn't that surprising, because back almost 15 years ago, when we started using Perfect Hoofwear, we noticed that we got an increase of about 200% in growth in a short period of time. And if we balanced the hoof properly, we got good, healthy growth. Well, with the use of the Trinity, as I had mentioned to the last question, was that we see that the foot remains in balance as it grows. So here we are, creating the correct stimulus for growth and development of healthy tissue within, and we're seeing it in balance. So these horses that had underrun heels, we're finding that we can correct underrun heels. I told you in the beginning of this interview that one of the questions I had was, how come I can't correct underrun heels with traditional shoes? And what we're finding out is, in a very short period of time, we're actually seeing these heels, actually the ungular cartilages, changing their conformation, growing a healthy heel. On top of it, we see good development of digital cushion. So there are a lot of benefits that we're getting, not only from the Perfect Hoofwear, but because we have the Trinity on there in the positions that they're in, the pieces that are in, is they actually heighten the stimulus to the structures that need that stimulus, that need to deal with that energy. So that allows for that three-dimensional distortion, okay, which reduces torque on the joint, but it also helps to develop good, healthy cartilage, because some of you may not realize cartilage is avascular. It needs that distortion so that the process of diffusion is how it gets its nutrients. So unless that distortion is correct, okay, so but don't be confused. I use the term distortion in class a lot and people can get confused. I'm not saying distorted, I'm saying distortion. Okay, so correct movement through a stabilized hoof, okay, provides healthy internal structures.
So Casey, are the Trinity horseshoes easy to apply?
You know, for anybody that's been a farrier for any amount of time, it's real easy. It's not difficult whatsoever. Yes, they are. It's actually a quite simple process. Okay, it's a simple process. What we have is, you know, by having 3 pieces, and this is probably going to answer one of your other questions, is how many sizes does the Trinity come in? Okay, the Trinity only comes in one size because all it really has to be done is we have to just simply shape the toe piece. Okay, so it's very easy to be, you know, very easily shaped because it's an aluminum alloy. You will need a small stall jack or an anvil. If you're a farrier, you've got everything you need. If you're a trimmer that wants to start doing Trinity, you'll just need to pick up a stall jack, and you can pick up very quickly how this has to be done just from our videos. It's not difficult whatsoever. We have good videos on the perfect hoofwear, on how to apply the perfect hoofwear, because we have anchors. Very simple to apply, very simple to learn.
So Casey, in conclusion, do you have any further comments you'd like to share?
Yeah, I would. You know, people always ask us why we called it the Trinity, and it's not simply because it's 3 pieces. You know, as I was developing these products over the years, because remember, we've been working on these products for over 20 years. Okay? The Trinity itself has been in development for over 5 years. And what I came to the conclusion was that we were dealing with an intelligent design. And you know, whatever your beliefs are, whether you believe it's you know, evolution, or whether you believe it's the creator, whatever you believe it is, I'm very strong in my faith that we have an intelligent designer at hand here. And if we just respect the design that's presented in front of us, we can really help these horses. Now, on the inside of the shoe, we had to put a registry mark, okay, so that you could position this toe correctly. And it really wasn't by design. Well, I guess it was by design. The registry mark comes out as a cross, okay, for our Trinity. But that's because we line it up with our sagittal line, we line it up with our transverse line so that we get that toe positioned correctly on it. What I'm trying to say is, the more that we delve into science, the more evidence is presented to show us that we're actually dealing with an intelligent design. And we're talking in this moment in time, you know, I mean, we're talking today. Okay, so when I look at it, I'm looking at a structure that I can respect. And if I develop products and I practice to that belief, I found that we can help a lot of horses. I really do.
I heard you say many times that if you looked at the inside of the foot, you would believe that a creator exists. Can you expand on that?
As a researcher, you know, I believe in the scientific method. I really do. Okay, and we've done several histological studies on tissue in the horse's foot. We've done several, you know, research papers. I've written a book, presented some information on you know, laminitis and founder, and what we call equine digital osteoarthritis. And the more research I do, and the more I look at the anatomy and the intricacies and the precision involved with foot function, the more I believe that we are dealing with intelligent design, that we're dealing with God's creation. That's what it is.
That's amazing to hear. So Casey, the perfect hoofwear is the foundation for the Trinity. How do you apply that to the foot?
You know, when we started with perfect hoofwear, I think I had mentioned it before. Originally, it was actually we used a glue. We used an adhesive. Now I've been involved with polymers for a very long time. I know adhesives very well. So it was easy. It was an easy choice for me to use a you know, acrylic to hold the perfect hoofwear on. But when I did that, I found that I changed the dynamics of the hoof. Okay, so when we looked at that intelligent design and that anatomy I was talking about, when you look at the coronary band, for instance, I'd love for you guys to go and take a look at our podcast, Intelligent Design Podcast. It's called Intelligent Design Hoof Care on YouTube. And you'll see some videos on anatomy. And one of them talks about what goes around. And we're talking about the coronary band. And a lot of people do not understand that the coronary band is not attached to cartilage or bone, with the exception of two very small places. And that's in the back of the heel, and it's about the size of the tip of my pinky where it's actually attached. And as a result, as that foot distorts, that coronary band is actually providing stimulus to various plexus and to various tissue by putting pressure as it distorts. Well, when I started to look at how we were putting the perfect hoofwear on, I started to ask, if I could just attach at the heels, would it be sufficient for it to function like the hoof capsule functions on the coronary band? So I came up with the idea of using two small anchors, Frankenstein bolts basically, at the back of the heels. And they're very small. We're talking less than 5 millimeters. Okay? And I designed them in such a way that they're very safe to use. Okay? Where they're placed, you're going to see on our videos where they're placed. There's no chance that you're going to have any problems whatsoever. But it made the perfect hoofwear so much more effective, because by having those anchors in the heel, every time that frog was pushed, the perfect hoofwear on the frog was pushed, or the heels were moved, it created stimulus around the entire hoof capsule, not just in that area. So they really worked well, and they hold up exceptionally well. Okay, and they're very easy to apply. You don't need any glues, you don't need messy glue, you just need these two little anchors. You're using a number 2 Phillips screwdriver. Very easy to apply. Watch our video, not a problem.
So let's go back to 2016. I remember you talking about the perfect hoofwear used on the Budweiser horses in the Super Bowl commercial. How did that event coincide with where we are today with the Trinity?
Well, that was kind of the transition period for our perfect hoofwear. We were actually at the time working with some steeplechase horses in the UK. And we were actually looking for a way to use perfect hoofwear for steeplechase. Okay, and if you guys know steeplechase, it's pretty demanding. So we had already, excuse me, we had already produced some alloy shoes for our steeplechase horses. Well, we got a call from Budweiser, thanks to a friend of ours, Tommy Turvey, who trained the Budweisers for that commercial. And they were asking if we had any way to protect their hooves as they galloped down Van Nuys Boulevard in Hollywood for the commercial. And I just so happened to have this idea in the back of my head, because we were already using it. I said, yeah, I think we can come up with something. So we actually went and created an aluminum alloy plate that would be put onto the perfect hoofwear, because it would protect those horses when they're moving over that asphalt. We would have loved to do it shoeless, but asphalt's slippery, asphalt, a lot of concussion, you've got a very large animal. So the perfect hoofwear attenuated all that energy, helped to protect those hooves. The plates gave them the traction they needed on the asphalt, and they just worked out beautifully. And it was where it kind of started. And then we started to realize that, well, we couldn't use one solid plate because it didn't fit with our understanding of the design.
So Casey, where do you see the Trinity going in the future? Is there any iterations to the design and the application that would help the process?
Yeah, it's a good question, because as we continue to see the results from the basic Trinity, from what we have, and we start to realize that we can take some of our other products and integrate them into the application. For instance, what I've got in my hand here are some Soulmate therapeutic pad inserts that we're going to be using for treating underrun heels, negative palmar angle syndrome, navicular disease, ring bone. So there are a lot of different things that we can use to establish balance where balance didn't exist. Okay, because that's one problem that we have today is that there are so many variations on how the feet are being trimmed and how they're being prepared for shoes, is that we find out a lot of times we don't have the structures we need to create balance of hoof to foot. So if we can use materials that closely mimic what's in that intelligent design, and we can create balance before we even put the perfect Hoofwear on or we put the Trinity on, we're going to be providing the correct stimulus for healing. Okay, we can speed recovery, we can help these horses with underrun heels. So that's, you can watch for these pretty quickly. I think these are going to be out within the next couple of weeks on the website, and they'll be sold in kits for negative palmar angle syndrome or for low heels and so forth. They're the proper density, and they work with our Trinity adhesive because these pieces do have to be adhered to the perfect Hoofwear in its application. But it's a very quick, very easy application using the Trinity glue in what we call an activator. So we can use that same glue and activator for applying these to the hoof. And you can watch one of the videos on my site, on our website, where I've actually done that, created balance on a horse that had no heels using the Soulmate therapeutic inserts.
Casey, thank you for your time today and for teaching us all about the Trinity horseshoes. And looks like it's going to be a great addition to the industry and actually help horses in a special way. So Casey, where else can we get information?
Well, we've got several websites. All right, you can go on to the trinityhorseshoes.com and you'll see our video library. And that's probably where you're watching this interview. If not, you're probably watching it on social media. We have social media pages. We have Facebook. You can go on to Facebook on Perfect Hoofwear. We also have the Intelligent Design Hoof Care podcast, which is on YouTube. And you can find it by just searching for Casey LaPierre, and you'll go right to my channel. We also have our school website. That's where all these products have been developed. They were developed at the Institute of Applied Equine Podiatry here in Florida, and you can go to their website, or our website at the appliedequinepodiatry.org.
Will you be holding any workshops or clinics for the Trinity horseshoes?
Yes, we plan on having both workshops and clinics. We'll probably be doing 3-day workshops around the world. Okay, we're probably actually going to start in Europe. And then we're also going to be doing some 2-day clinics for farriers and for trimmers. Professionals that want to add these tools to their toolbox. So they'll be done here in Florida, and we are hoping to have some 2-day clinics as well throughout in Italy and Sweden and France in the near future. So 2026 looks like it's going to be a very busy year for us.